There are true crime stories, and then there is In Cold Blood. Truman Capote's haunting masterpiece is not just a book about a murder, it is a book that changed literature itself. He called it a nonfiction novel. And with it, he created a new and powerful way of telling a true story, a form that was as immersive and artful as a great work of fiction. The book is a chilling, poetic, and deeply philosophical journey into the heart of a senseless and brutal crime, the 1959 murder of the Clutter family in the tiny, God-fearing town of Holcomb, Kansas. This single act of violence didn't just end 4 lives, it shattered the innocence of a community and held up a dark and disturbing mirror to the American dream. This is the story of how that mirror was shattered and what we can see in its broken, jagged pieces. It is an inquiry not just into what happened on that terrible night, but into the vast, unknowable distances that can exist within the human heart. The Last Day in Holcomb. The genius and the horror of In Cold Blood begins with its structure. Capote creates an almost unbearable sense of dramatic irony by showing us 2 separate worlds, 2 separate journeys that are on an inexorable collision course. The first world is the world of the victims. Capote spends the first part of the book meticulously and lovingly reconstructing the last day in the life of the Clutter family, and in doing so he makes them real, whole, and deeply human. They are not just statistics or names in a police report, he makes us know them and he makes us care about them. The patriarch, Herb Clutter, is the embodiment of the American dream. He is a self-made man, a devout Methodist, a respected and prosperous farmer who has built a beautiful life for his family on the flat, windswept plains of western Kansas. He is a man of principle, a fair employer, and a beloved figure in his community. His wife Bonnie is a more fragile figure. She suffers from a deep clinical depression, a nervousness that often confines her to her bed. But she is also a gentle, loving soul, a woman who dreams of the small, beautiful things in life. Their 2 teenage children, who are the last 2 still living at home, are the picture of youthful promise. Nancy Clutter, just 16, is the town sweetheart. She is a brilliant student, the president of her class, a talented musician and baker. She is kind, responsible, and universally adored. Her younger brother, Kenyon, 15, is a quieter, more introverted boy. He loves to tinker with electronics and work on his truck. He is a gentle, gangly teenager on the cusp of manhood. Capote paints a portrait of this family and of their town, Holcomb, as a kind of American Eden. It is a quiet, peaceful, and deeply trusting community where people don't lock their doors at night. On their last day on Earth, November 14, 1959, the Clutters go about their simple, wholesome lives. Herb negotiates a business deal. Nancy bakes a cherry pie and helps a neighbor girl with a music solo. Kenyon works on a wooden chest. It is a day of profound and heartbreaking normalcy. By showing us the richness and the simple goodness of their lives, Capote makes the violence that is about to descend upon them feel all the more senseless and tragic. The men in the Chevrolet. At the very same time that the Clutters are living out their last, peaceful day, Capote shows us the other journey. 2 men, ex-convicts, are driving across Kansas in a black Chevrolet. Their destination is the Clutter family farm. Their names are Richard Dick Hickock and Perry Smith. Where the Clutter family represents the American dream, Dick and Perry represent its dark, twisted shadow. They are the products of broken homes, of poverty, and of the brutal, dehumanizing world of the prison system. Capote takes us deep inside their minds, showing us 2 very different but equally damaged human beings. Dick Hickock is the pragmatic, charismatic, and cold-hearted leader of the pair. He is a con man, a smooth talker who is utterly devoid of a conscience. Perry Smith, on the other hand, is a much more complex and tragic figure. He is the dreamer. Perry is half Cherokee, a sensitive and intelligent man who dreams of being an artist or a musician. He carries a box of books and maps with him everywhere he goes. But his life has been a relentless series of traumas. He grew up in abusive orphanages, suffered a crippling motorcycle accident that left him in constant pain, and is haunted by a deep sense of shame and insecurity. For Perry, the score is not just about the money, it's about the promise of a new life, a new start, a chance to finally achieve the recognition and respect he has always craved. He is a walking contradiction, a man with the soul of a poet and the heart of a killer. The dynamic between these 2 men is fascinating. Dick is the engine of the plan, but it is Perry, with his deep-seated rage and his capacity for explosive violence, who is the real danger. As they drive across the plains, their black car moving steadily towards the quiet, unsuspecting town of Holcomb, Capote creates an almost unbearable sense of impending doom. The two worlds are about to collide, and the reader is a helpless witness. The shattered silence. On the morning of November 15th, the silence of Holcomb, Kansas is shattered forever. Friends of the family discover the horrific scene at the Clutter farm. Herb, Bonnie, Nancy, and Kenyon have all been tied up and shot to death with a shotgun, each in a different part of the house. The horror of the crime is magnified by its apparent senselessness. There was no safe. The killers had left with less than $50, a pair of binoculars, and a portable radio. The patriarch, Herb Clutter, is the embodiment of the American dream. He is a self-made man, a devout Methodist, a respected and prosperous farmer who has built a beautiful life for his family on the flat, windswept plains of western Kansas. He is a man of principle, a fair employer, and a beloved figure in his community. For Perry, the score is not just about the money. It's about the promise of a new life, a new start, a chance to finally achieve the recognition and respect he has always craved. He is a walking contradiction, a man with the soul of a poet and the heart of a killer. Dick's plan is simple: drive to the farm, rob the safe, and leave no witnesses behind. For him, the violence is a practical, necessary part of the plan. As they move toward the house, Capote creates an almost unbearable sense of impending doom. On the morning of November 15th, the silence of Holcomb, Kansas is shattered forever. The horror of the crime is magnified by its apparent senselessness. There was no safe. The killers had left with less than $50, a pair of binoculars, and a portable radio. The impact on the small, tight-knit community is immediate and devastating. Holcomb was a place built on trust, a place where the phrase neighbor meant something. This crime, in its brutality and its randomness, introduces a new and terrifying idea into their world. That violence can come from nowhere, for no reason. The loss of innocence is palpable. For the first time, people in Holcomb start to lock their doors at night. A deep sense of suspicion and fear poisons the community. People who have known each other their entire lives begin to look at each other with doubt. The crime didn't just kill 4 people. It killed a way of life. It killed the belief in a safe, predictable, and benevolent world. This is the central tragedy of the book. The investigation is led by Alvin Dewey, an agent from the Kansas Bureau of Investigation. He is a decent, methodical, and deeply dedicated man who becomes obsessed with the case, but in the early days, he and his team have almost nothing to go on. There is no motive, no murder weapon, and no witnesses. The case is a frustrating and baffling puzzle, the long road to nowhere. While the town of Holcomb is paralyzed by fear and the police are chasing dead ends, Dick and Perry are on the run. Their journey after the murders is a portrait of aimlessness, of moral decay, and of the strange, codependent relationship between them. The score, which was supposed to be their ticket to a new life, has yielded almost nothing. They make their way to Mexico, where Perry's dream of finding sunken treasure quickly dissolves in the face of poverty and desperation. Their relationship begins to fracture under the strain. Dick, the supposed tough guy, is revealed to be a coward, while Perry, the dreamer, is haunted by the violence he has committed. It is during this section that Capote gives us a deep, literary, and almost empathetic dive into the minds of the killers. He never excuses their actions, but he forces us to see them as damaged and complex human beings, not just one-dimensional monsters. He explores Perry's tormented childhood in excruciating detail, showing us the layers of abuse and neglect that created the broken man he became. This is what made In Cold Blood so revolutionary and so controversial. Capote forces the reader into an uncomfortable intimacy with the killers. He makes us understand their pathetic dreams and their profound resentments. He makes us see the humanity in the monster, and in doing so, he makes the crime itself even more tragic and terrifying. He is asking a profound philosophical question. What are the ingredients that create a killer? Is it nature? Is it nurture? Is it a society that has failed them? The book offers no easy answers. The corner and the confession. The break in the case finally comes from where it all began: prison. A former cellmate of Dick Hickock's, a man named Floyd Wells, reads about the Clutter murders and realizes that the details match the story Dick had told him about a rich farmer with a safe full of cash. Wells, after a crisis of conscience, informs the authorities. Suddenly Alvin Dewey and his team have their suspects. The long, patient work of the investigation begins to pay off. They now have names, faces, and a criminal history to work with. A nationwide manhunt is launched. And in Las Vegas, on December 30th, after weeks on the run, Dick and Perry are finally caught. They are arrested without a fight. The final piece of the puzzle is the interrogation. Dewey and his team are masters of psychological strategy. They separate Dick and Perry and question them individually. Dick, the pragmatic con man who believes he can talk his way out of anything, quickly cracks under the pressure and blames the entire thing on Perry. Perry's confession is a different story. For a long time he sticks to their alibi. But then, Dewey plays his final card. He tells Perry, truthfully, that Dick has confessed and has blamed him for all 4 murders. At this moment, something in Perry breaks. It is not the fear of punishment that gets to him, but the betrayal by the one person he thought was his partner. And then, the whole horrifying story of that night at the Clutter farm comes pouring out of him in chilling and meticulous detail. He describes the final moments of the Clutter family with a strange, detached, and almost poetic sadness. The mystery is finally solved. The book ends by following Dick and Perry through their trial, their conviction, and their years on death row, culminating in their execution by hanging in 1965. But there is no sense of triumph or closure. There is only a profound and lingering sense of waste and tragedy. The ultimate message of In Cold Blood is that it endures not just because of the horror of the crime, but because of the depth of its humanity and the artistry of its telling. Capote forces us to see the full, tragic, and complex picture, the simple goodness of the victims, the deep brokenness of the killers, and the shattered innocence of the community caught in the middle. It is a book that offers no easy answers, only profound and unsettling questions about the darkness that coexists with the light in the American landscape and in the human soul. It is a deep inquiry into a story that is both uniquely American and universally human. If you believe that we must look into the darkness to understand the truth, then you are in the right place. Welcome to Geeky Philosopher. Subscribe, and let's continue to explore the literary masterpieces that dare to ask the most difficult questions.